My name is Emily Levesque. I'm an astronomy professor at the University of Washington, and this is inside a scientist's suitcase. I study big stars, massive stars. So these are things 8 times the mass of the sun or more, and I'm interested in how they evolve and especially in how they die. And these are the sorts of stars that explode as supernovae and gamma ray bursts. So I'm interested in studying what actually makes them do that. The very first research project I actually did back in undergrad was trying to measure the temperatures of stars called red supergiants. So I was studying these stars, and as a funny side effect, we wound up measuring how big they were, and we wound up discovering the biggest stars in the universe. So if you were to take one of the stars that we discovered and put it where our sun is, it would reach out to past the orbit of Jupiter. So it would swallow all the planets out to partway to Saturn. I mainly get my data from ground-based telescopes, so I used to do a lot of observing with the Keck telescopes. Right now I use the Gemini telescopes in Chile a lot, and the Apache Point Observatory telescopes in New Mexico. I also do some work with Hubble data. I'm currently trying to get more data from Hubble in the ultraviolet wavelength range, which is really special because you can't gather ultraviolet light from Earth. You'd have to go to space and you'd have to use something like Hubble. That's actually what a lot of my work travel is traveling to these observatories to stay up all night for a couple nights and get data on things like the galaxies that have hosted gamma ray bursts. So this is my suitcase. It's new, actually. I just got this in the past year or so. And yeah, I can show you a few of the things that I keep inside it and that I always take with me when I travel. The first one has actually got to be my favorite. So this is a little stuffed frog named Frog. It's very creative. And this is my travel good luck charm and sort of my travel toy that I take photos of when I fly around. Frog has come with me on pretty much every single trip. He's been to every continent except Antarctica, so he comes with me pretty much whenever I go anywhere. Another thing that I travel with a lot is my iPad. This I mainly use as a book when I'm traveling because I'll use it as a substitute Kindle. So the hotel that we're at here has a lap pool. And I really love swimming. It's one of my favorite ways to get exercise and to relax. So I brought my little goggles and nose clip set up so that I can do laps while I'm here. The coolest discovery that I've made in my job was one that happened a couple of years ago. And it started with a trip down to Chile. We were trying to measure the temperatures of the stars. And we wound up discovering that some of these stars were kind of strange. They were changing their temperature really rapidly, and they were changing their appearance in a way that we wouldn't expect them to. And we sort of wrote about this and published a research paper and moved on. And we got an email one day from a woman saying, I think you may have discovered a type of star that I predicted almost 40 years ago, and would you be interested in checking on this? So her name was Anna Zhitkov. And she had worked with a guy named Kip Thorne at Caltech and predicted something called a Thorne-Zhitkov object. It was named after them. And what it is a star that has a core that is very different from our suns or very different from almost any other type of star. They're not fighting gravity through fusion, they're fighting gravity through quantum physics, believe it or not, through these really weird rules in quantum physics saying that you can't squeeze subatomic particles too closely together. So this was a really weird and really fun idea, and we decided to check and see if we had actually discovered one of their stars, and it turns out that we did. Nobody had found evidence that these things had ever existed. It was sort of a neat prediction and a neat idea, but nobody had ever found one. And we found what we think is the first Thorne-Zhitkov object. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty exciting.